Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a very special video for you. I'm going to review one of the most iconic decks in the playing card industry, which is the KEM. In this case, the KEM Arrow, which is probably the most iconic back that they've designed for these decks. They have some other designs, but those are no longer available for as far as I can see. So these are the most widespread. And so KEM is well known, obviously, for their plastic cards. They use cellulose acetate, which is a different material than these, for example, these bicycle prestige cards. That you have PVC cards, you have these Duraflex cards, which I like a lot as well. But these are pretty special. Now, as the case may be, I actually already did an unboxing video. I did record it, but I'm not actually going to post it, I think. Just because I noticed some defects with the deck, and I was kind of bummed out, and I needed some time to process that, and I actually found a solution for that, or at least one that suits me. I did contact the retailer, but obviously this is a factory issue, and I'll get into that in a minute. I'll show you what happened, but it's not the end of the world, you know. So this deck is from 2023, or at least that's what the copyright says. So this is a pretty new printing, but this is an old company, right? So KEM is from 1935. And if you look online on eBay and stuff like that, or on Reddit or whatever, you'll find some very old decks, right, that people have inherited from their parents or whatever, stuff like that have gone through World War II and stuff like that. And apparently they also had quite a reputation in the U.S. military. And so I also wanted to... So the reason why these drew my attention, obviously, is... Well, first off, the material, right? I do enjoy plastic playing cards. I do enjoy plastic cards in general. I still want to get a nice plastic tarot deck, but I'm not sure if I want to pay 30 euros for the plastic Rider-Waite. And there are no real alternatives available, but I've mostly stepped, well, I wouldn't say away from tarot necessarily, but I've mostly been practicing cartomancy with regular playing cards lately, so I don't think that's something I really need anymore. But you know, you never know when the mood might strike me again. But so this is a fairly new print. And you know, so I don't remember when it was, but you know, at some point KEM was purchased by the USPCC, and so after that happened, there was like a two year hiatus. They weren't producing any cards, and then they started bringing them out again, and there were different packages they were trying out, let's say. Now, it seems like they've settled for this now, and the reason why I brought this other deck to the side is just to compare, because this packaging is very similar to the Prestige one, right? It has a very similar pattern on here and stuff like that. And so, as I was saying, the reason why the KEMs drew my attention out, other than the material, obviously, is just the aesthetic of it, right? So KEM, obviously, like I looked it up where the name comes from. There doesn't seem to be an indication. I read somewhere that it was the founding members' initials, but that doesn't seem to hold any water. But obviously, I personally suggest it's from Al-Kem, right? From the land of KEM, from Egypt. And personally, I think that vibe comes through in the cards as well. They have a very old school Orientalist type vibe mixed in with some retrofuturist types. Like the aesthetic is kind of all over the place, but it kind of makes the card special as well. So let's just get into the cards. I've reordered these for you. I did shuffle them a lot yesterday and play with them a bit. But I just reordered them just to give you an idea of what they look like out of the box. So we got the ad cards. We got the iconic Ace of Spades, which is an interesting design. And we don't know who this lady is, but this is what makes me think of like retrofuturism, like Art Deco, that kind of style, like the Metropolis movie. Like seeing this card, automatically I just hear like Metropolis by Kraftwerk in the back of my head playing, you know. So it's kind of, you know, I really like this card. It's very special. But we'll find some more of these. So the pips are fairly neutral. Oh yeah, I should show you the backs as well. So these are the arrow backs, and these are the black ones. So they are reversible, obviously. The design is, I mean, it's good. It's not bad, but I mean, it kind of looks like a compass or a roulette table. But these arrows are kind of weird. I would have preferred if they were a little bit more uniform, I guess, because they have different sizes. I mean, so these ones obviously are longer, because they're across the length of the card, but these are also a bit narrower, you know. And I don't know. That's just my I don't know. I'm not autistic, I swear. So yeah, the pips are fairly regular. They're a bit smaller than your average bicycle pips, and I could show you some of these just to make a comparison. You know, those are definitely larger. And the indexes are a bit larger too, I think. Although, no, the indexes are about the same. But you can tell that the pips are obviously quite a bit larger. So these are both standard index, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Then we get the quartz. And these are actually some of the prettiest I've seen. Even the jacks, which are normally are my least favorite court cards, here are actually very well done. Even though this one is probably the least well done of the whole set. You will notice they have the flash tones. That's another thing that's unique about the KEMs. We have the Queen of Spades. And you may also notice on this card you don't see that so much. Actually, you do see something else, right? So they have printing imperfections, right? You will notice. So for example here, like the shadow underneath her brow, on her right brow is left white. Well, here it's normal. So you could use those for reversals if you're into that sort of thing. But obviously your mileage may vary. I think that differs from deck to deck, to be honest. And I'll get to that when we get to the second, because this is a 2-deck set, right? And the second one is the one that had the issues as well. So yeah, King of Spades, Ace, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The Jack of Hearts. I think the hearts in this deck are my favorite suit. They're very, very pretty. I like the Jack with the mustache and the little leaf in his hand. And the Queen is very dignified. You will also notice, by the way, that they have, like, their hands are much more proportionate, or seem much more proportionate compared to the rest of the body, right? If you compare them to, like, once again, to like a bicycle, to like the bicycle courts, you know, you have these teeny tiny little hands here that I always found kind of off-putting. You know, I like bicycle cards, but they have like this. The cores just seem kind of, distorted, you know. They just seem kind of warped, and like I mean, they're mirrored, obviously, so they are like sort of a caricature, but you can tell that here they look more human, you know. They look more, they have sort of a magical realism vibe to them. So we have the queen, the king, and then we have the clubs. As you can see, obviously all the reversals that I went over in previous videos, they are all here, right? You have the sevens, you have the sixes with the 2 bottom and the 4 top pips. The jack of clubs is... maybe the jack of clubs is my least favorite jack in this deck. But the queen is very pretty as well. The king, for some reason, has white hands in this suit. And then we go to the diamonds, the last one. We got the jack here with his sword. So that's also an interesting rendition. Usually you see this... wait, let me see if I got this correct. That's the... Wait, let's see if we... Jack of diamonds, if we can find him. Here you go. Okay. See, right? So that is a sword, apparently. So he's holding that. Here it's been simplified in the bicycle pattern. But yeah, that does look like a sword. Now that I think of it, now that I see it. And then we have the queen of diamonds, also very pretty. Now here you might actually see that. So for example, the line art on this side is a bit more thinner, a bit thinner than on that side. Here it's a bit thicker, right? So you could play with those for reversals and stuff as well. But yeah, it's not ideal, but it's there. And then we have the 2 jokers, and those are also pretty interesting because you can tell that the the image they used is pretty old, so they are all pixelated. And so this is like the third, so we have 4 aesthetic like landmarks on this deck, right? We have the ace of spades, which is like has this retrofuturist kind of vibe. Then we have the courts, which have this magical realist kind of vibe. And then we have these guys that have this retro gaming, like MS-DOS type pixel art vibe, you know. And obviously in the past they weren't pixelated like this. So this apparently happened after US Games purchased KEM. And apparently they didn't have the original files anymore. And so they used this for some reason. And... personally, it doesn't bother me. I actually really like this. It actually adds to the feel of the deck for my taste. But I can see how people might be bummed out by these jokers. And obviously, the design of the jokers themselves is kind of unconventional too. You know, you have this fat dude with his finger up his nose and stuff like that. So then we get to the second deck, and now here's where the problem started. So this is the gold back. Let me just put these this way. This is the gold back. This is the second deck. The cards are the same, but you may notice that now you don't see it so well because I reversed some cards and stuff like that, but you'll probably also notice on this side that the cards aren't all perfectly aligned. Right, so it seems like the machine that cut these cards is pretty old and not in pretty bad shape. But it seems like it's only these gold decks. And it's funny too because I watched a review on another channel of these KEM playing cards. And he had the same set. He had the gold and black one. And he also noticed that his gold cards have these irregular corners. Right, and I did take some pictures. Obviously, you know, because I reversed some cards, and I'll explain in a minute why that happened. So, but I did take some pictures and I did send them to the retailer to see if they can do anything to help. But at the same time, I was thinking in my mind, because this is an old company from 1934, and chances are, for the cards to be in this shape, they're still using the same machinery, right? And they probably still have, a couple of old veterans that still run the factory, and that are the only ones who know how to maintain them and how to use this material, this cellulose acetate and stuff like that, and how to make these specific cards. And they're probably also stuck in their ways, and they want to use the same images and maintain like the original image of KEM playing cards. But that's also why production has been low, and why the prices have gone up, and why they're constantly out of stock anywhere you look. So I'm honestly willing to take this with a grain of salt, or not with a grain of salt, to take this as a, to just accept it as it is. Mostly because it's like a historical piece, and secondly because I use these cards, I don't use them for games, right? So I'm not concerned about anyone marking the cards or counting the cards. I'm more concerned about their authenticity and their the symbolism and the aesthetic, right? I'm more interested in the cartomantic use and stuff like that. So the solution I came up with actually was to shorten the deck, and to shorten it to a piqué deck, because in France the most popular way to read the cards is using a piqué deck of 32 cards, and the Lenormand, for example, is an extension of the piqué deck, which includes the sixes, right? So the piqué removes all the twos up to 6 from each suit, and keeps the aces, the 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the chords for each suit. So what I did actually, I reordered these cards for this video, but I actually ordered this deck in the French way. So we'll have a different order to go through the cards. But so my reasoning for that was because in the French cartomantic tradition in piqué, they also look at reversals for all the cards. So they have meanings for all the cards. So from 32 cards, you have 64 meanings, right? But in order to do that, you need cards that are reversible. And obviously normal playing cards, as I've showed repeatedly, right, only have 22 reversible cards, like in the Anglo-American tradition. But if you have a deck that's marked, that has defective corners, then it's a lot easier, obviously, to read reversals into them. And obviously I'm thinking of adding some extra marks just to make sure that I can tell, because obviously with the naked eye it's a bit harder to tell. But so yeah, we got the same ace of spades, got the king, the queen, the jack, 10, 9, 8, 7, ace of hearts, king, queen, jack, 10, 9, 8, 7, ace of clubs, 10, king, queen, jack, 10, 8, 9, 7. Oh wait, I did this one reversed. 9, 8, 7. Ace of diamonds, king, queen, jack, 10, 9, 8, 7. Very, very simple. And so, well, now that we're here, let me just show you how they shuffle. I'll start with this one since I already have it on hand, and see what comes up. Obviously, I'm not very well versed in like piqué readings. You can find the meanings online on French websites, and I've already made some attempts to look into those. Some of them have the reversals, others don't. So it's a bit of a hit or miss situation, and it's kind of tough to tell which ones are the best. But yeah, we'll have to look into that. Maybe see if I can find any books on the subject, probably in French, and so on. One more. And recently I've been doing a lot of blackjack spreads, so that's a little bit more challenging with the piquet deck. Well, we got a blackjack right away, right? 10 of ace of spades and 10 of spades. That's a good outcome, hopefully. Let's see, are any of these reversed? Actually, we can't tell because the spades, I think, were in good condition for the most part. Yeah. So anyway, so that's how these shuffle, and let's give the other deck a try as well. With all 52 cards, 54 actually with the jokers included. These will need some more thorough shuffling, maybe like 5 or 6 times or something. We'll see how it goes. But as you can tell, like, they're very supple, they're very pliable, you know, they're very soft cards. So they took a little bit of getting used to for me. But they shuffle very nicely. I was actually hoping, yeah. Sometimes I'm very careful about riffle shuffling because I want to get like as many alternating sides as possible so that you get a nice long riffle at the end. But it doesn't always work out. So I always try to get like almost two exact halves if possible and stuff like that. But yeah, let's do one more just to make sure. Yeah, that was a good one. So yeah, 10, 8. Ooh, dangerous. We went over. 10, 8, 7. All right. Always like to look at the last card as well. See what the how do you say, like the ultimate result is going to be, or like the ultimate destination, you know. But yeah. So that's the KEMs. I honestly think my quest for the perfect plastic deck has come to an end. I might get some Copegs at some point, and maybe, who knows, maybe I might actually like them more, but I don't like the quartz. I've seen some pictures and stuff like that, so they do have nice jokers though. So who knows, maybe I'll look into those at some point as well. But so honestly, this idea of me shortening the golden deck actually I think was one of the best solutions I could come up with, because I thought about shortening, for example, the Ducal deck that I have, but the problem with that is that I'd have to, if I ever choose to use all 52 cards, I'd have to re-shorten it later and stuff like that. Well, this one, because it's defective and because I only need one KEM deck for normal Cartomancy readings, in case I ever need a Piquet deck, and I can also play games with it, as I said, because I'm also learning like Manila and stuff like that, other games. I can just grab it and just have it separated and ready to go, And the other cards that I have, I've been thinking about, I could use them for like other stuff to experiment with, like talismans and stuff like that for Cartomancy. I bought a couple of books that I'm pretty interested in, so I'm gonna see what I can do with these. And obviously, since they're plastic, they're virtually indestructible, so I could like wear them in my pocket or something like that, and see how it works, And these are premium cards, so for like Magic purposes, I think they would be rather suitable. So yeah, so that's my review, Cartomantic review. So just to recap, if should you get a pack of KEMs, I would say yes, but if you're in Europe, it might be best to get a different brand, maybe like Modiano, or like because the Modiano plastic cards are also cellulose acetate, or at least some of them. They do have cellulose acetate sets. So I would look in that direction, or just get these. These are good as well. Or try to get a pack of KEMs off of eBay or something. But other than that, if you don't mind a bit of a scatterbrained aesthetic, a bit of a weird, like, it just kind of, and like just kind of the risk of having like these cards not be completely like aligned. I would definitely recommend getting a pack of these. Either for games or for readings. I think for readings, I honestly think personally for readings they are just about perfect. They have the vibe. I think the way these the aesthetics are, especially in the modern deck, being like, I think they have, because they have this sort of weird ambiguity, they kind of enhance this aura of mystery, right, and mysticism to the cards. And KEM just has this, that's kind of their brand, just kind of is like that, And I think I think these cards are surprisingly well suited for like cartomantic purposes, and I find it interesting that nobody has reviewed them in that capacity as of yet, right? So just to recap what we're trying to do on this channel, and this is like a new kind of thing, and I wanna kind of formalize it so you know what I'm trying to do. You have plenty of card reviews for like mostly for cardistry. How do you say? Playing games. And magic tricks, right? Those are the three big categories that playing cards are used for. But then cartomancy are kind of a category of its own. And most people that do cartomancy reviews, they either review like a tarot deck, or they review like specific fortune telling playing cards that are made for that purpose, right? But personally, I find a normal deck of playing cards much more interesting than a fortune telling playing card, because a fortune telling playing card comes with a bunch of baggage, right, that the creator has added on top, with pictures around the pips and stuff like that, which means that you have to interpret the cards within these frameworks that they've chosen, right? And if you go through my system, the way I have explained it, with 22 reversible cards specifically, which means that you have to use the Anglo-American tradition, the Anglo-American standards, casino standard playing cards, right? If you use the French Ducale deck, it already doesn't work, because the sevens, for example, the sixes are not reversible. The sevens are centered, so the seven of diamonds is not reversible. The eights. Wait, see if I can find one. The eights are not reversible. Actually, the eight of diamonds isn't reversible anyway. Well, come on then. Where's the card? Here. The eights are not reversible, right? They have this diagonal split, right? So you have these. Wait, it's the other way around. So you have these four that are upside down and these four that are upright. While in an Anglo-American deck, in a bicycle deck, for example, you have 5 upright and 3 upside down. So it's just a different arrangement. But these things are, in my view, in my system, they are important, because 22 reversible cards equals the 22 major arcana of the playing cards deck. And obviously, I'm not equating playing cards with tarot. I use different elemental correspondences for playing cards based on the folk traditions, cartomantic traditions that you can read books on, that exist, right? So I'm not taking that out of the air, but I did discover the 22 reversible cards. I did discover a bunch of other, because once you remove those, you get other patterns as well, right? You get 22 reversible cards, you get 30 irreversible ones, of which you have two groups, one of 18 and one of 12, and you get all these weird calculations. You can get, all these correspondences you can add to the non-reversible cards in addition to the reversible ones and stuff like that, right? So all that stuff is important to me, and finding a deck that has all these properties and that shuffles well, that reads well, that is clear to the eye, and that has has appropriate vibes. Because to me, fortune telling is an art form, right? If the deck doesn't vibe with you, if the aesthetic doesn't work for you, then it's not worth getting into or getting that deck, and so these are all properties that we look for in the cards. And because we're doing cartomancy reviews, you get things like where like a marked or a defective card or a misprint or something like that could have a special meaning, and you kind of transcend like the consumerists. Even though obviously I did shell out like fucking $90 for this deck, but if to me it feels like, and obviously I'm coping, part of that in my brain is like coping pretty hard about my purchase. But at the same time, obviously, I have consumer rights. I sent an email to the store just to see what my options are, and I can still make a decision. But even so, if you're a fortune teller, if you're reading cards, if you're into cards for reading for cartomancy, then you may have an attraction to like used cards, second hand, or cards that have these defects, things that make the cards unique to your practice, and that's a part of it as well for me. It's an art form. You can interpret these things and attach meaning to them in different ways, right? And so that's why these types of videos and this engagement with the product for me is more important. Because to me, like, I like watching a lot of channels, right? I watch a lot of tarot reviewers, and I've posted my criticisms before. I've talked about my criticisms about playing cards and tarot quality, right? Tarot card quality and stuff like that. I've talked about my complaints with other tarot channels and stuff like that. But I also have criticisms for there are people reviewing playing cards just for the sake of it, and they don't have any further use for them, just other than to have them in like a display case, and have like 500 decks that they don't use most of the time, and some of them obviously play games, and obviously that's a respectable solution, and you can talk about, but you can't. There's only so much you can say about a normal deck of playing cards, even of the highest quality, like these KEMs, right? But if you're interested in the symbolism, and if you're actually reading the cards and you have a constant day-to-day interaction with them, that's information that could be pertinent to some people, that could be useful to talk about, and that's what I'm aiming to do in this channel. Obviously, parallel to what I'm already doing, right? I'm doing my research. I want to write more books about the cards. I still have some ideas that I want to work out about, like a speculative history or of the tarot and the playing cards, right? And how they relate to each other, and what their true relationship is. Because I do believe that in the primacy of the playing cards over the tarot, and that the tarot is actually an extended playing card deck, in the same way as that the Piquet deck is a shortened one, right? It's but that the correct size and the correct format is the 52 cards. It's not, the tarot is not the original, because we got 52 cards from the Mamluks, from Egypt. And if we are going to say that the tarot comes from Egypt, then this is the tarot. You know, this should be the real tarot, and that's what that's currently my mission statement. Let's say on what I'm trying to achieve. So yeah, enough yapping out of me. Hope you enjoyed this video. And yeah, I'll keep you guys posted if I get a reply from the reseller. See what they have to offer. If I get a better offer, but I think I'm honestly gonna stick with the cards that I have. I honestly like this arrangement a lot. I don't use 2 decks for poker or anything, so having 1.5 deck and then some extra cards to do some other experiments with, I think is a perfect solution. So all in all, I'm actually really happy with my purchase. I couldn't be happier. I have a pack of KEMs. They look and feel historical and authentic. They have their famous quality, and I have 2 separate decks for 2 different systems that I can use now, which, you know, I think is a win overall. So yeah, again, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.